My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life.
We as the American people deserve to have every Epstein file released with no redactions whatsoever, period.
Okay, everybody, after a major event this last weekend where we talked about Epstein, I want to just kind of give you a little bit of an update.
That video that you released, I recognized it was my son, and I confronted him, and he was handed over to lawful law enforcement authorities while conducting extensive interviews and cell phone analysis, and also flying out evidence response teams and hostage rescue teams and evidence tacticians who were collecting evidence in live time and flying them back to Washington, D.C. in our laboratories for immediate analyses. We were able to extract video from the campus feed and at my direction at 8 p.m. in partnership and promise to working with the public to bring this fugitive to justice. We released a newly, never before seen video of the suspect. We also released new enhanced photos of the suspect. A few hours later, that suspect was in custody.
Definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question.
The FBI is in deep trouble right now. Its director is being grilled by Congress, and it's looking more and more like the hit on Charlie Kirk wasn't some lone wolf act, but the work of a shadowy group that actually pulls the strings in America.
We're getting new details about the rifle allegedly used in Charlie Kirk's assassination coming to light now and could hinder the investigation.
Alexis McAdams is live in Utah with those details. Good morning, Alexis.
Good morning, Rachel. And so we are trying to get the latest details about that weapon, but investigators had already told us one thing that we knew a few days ago, was that they found the rifle out wrapped in a towel right near the shooting scene. So they had it, but what we didn't know was exactly how old it was. And it's important to point that out because police say the suspect might have chosen that gun because it was pretty much untraceable.
And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us. We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just that'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem. This is the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever seen. And whatever happens next in America, I hope it's in this direction because God is here and you can feel it. And Charlie would have loved this, not just because he loved large groups of people, but because ultimately he was a Christian evangelist. And it actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us. We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up.
People think the FBI is behind this, and there's plenty of evidence that seems to back that up. But others argue the CIA or even Mossad might have a hand in it, too. This is one seriously deep rabbit hole, folks, and the deeper you dive, the crazier it gets. Just look at the current congressional hearings. Kash Patel is already under fire for early blunders, including a false social media post where he claimed the suspect was already in custody.
24 hours after, when we were still looking for the guy, I know you posted that we got him. That ended up not being true. You took some incoming because of that. What led to you posting that? Why did you feel so certain about it? And what do you have to say about the criticism?
No, I appreciate this opportunity. Look, As I stated, I was being transparent with working with the public on our findings as I had them. I stated in that message that we had a subject and that we were going to interview him, and we did, and he was released. The job of the FBI is not just to manhunt the actual suspect who did the suspects, but it's also to eliminate targets and eliminate subjects who are not involved in the process. And that's what we were doing. Could I have worded it a little better in the heat of the moment? Sure.
FBI keeps tripping over its own story. If they were being straight with the public, this kind of mess wouldn't be happening, right? On Wednesday, Patel sat through nearly 5 hours of grilling by the House Judiciary Committee, where lawmakers hammered him not just on the Kirk case but also on the Bureau's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. The exchange quickly turned tense. Ranking member Jamie Raskin pressed Patel on why the FBI still hasn't released more Epstein documents. At one point, Raskin flat out demanded to know why. Patel hadn't revealed the names of Epstein's co-conspirators.
Your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are, you said. You emphasized that the president and FBI director each had complete authority to release Epstein's client list. You said Epstein's black book is under the, quote, direct control of the director of the FBI. Look at this clip.
This is way off the topic, but who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black book?
black book?
FBI.
But who? That is I mean, there's
that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
All right, so you were sworn in as director more than 200 days ago. Now the black book is under your direct control. So why haven't you released the names of Epstein's co-conspirators in the trafficking of young women and girls?
The Rolodex, which is what everybody colloquially refers to as the black book, has been released.
Oh, no, you're talking about what the journalist got 5 years ago? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what you were talking about there.
That's
the black
exactly
book
what I
under
was
the
talking.
direct control of the FBI director.
We have released more material than anyone else before. The Biden administration, Obama administration had the exact opportunities to release this material, and they never did. And if you are selling the men and women of the FBI,
Why
we're not
do you
going after
change
predators. Hang on. You said we're not going after child predators. 1,500 child predators arrested this year. 35%
Okay,
increase.
I'll reclaim my time.
4,700 child victims
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to
found.
reclaim my time if you could instruct the witness. Why have you changed your position? There you were saying it's under the direct control of the FBI director and all of it should be released. Why have you changed your
Everything
position?
that has been lawfully permitted to be released has been released. And as I told you,
Really?
the investigation was limited. And let me make something crystal clear. I never said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic other people, other women, and they're not other victims. This is the investigation we were given from 2006, 7, and 8, and the search warrants from 2006, 7, and 8. That's what we're working with.
Well, wait, have you released all of the stuff that the FBI has seized from Epstein's house? The computers, the emails, the file cabinets, the documents? What about the financial records? Have you released all of that?
Everything the court has allowed us to
Which
release.
court are you?
A wealthy financier and convicted offender was found dead in jail in 2019. Even after his death, the FBI and prosecutors kept digging into his alleged partners. Then in July, just before the Kirk incident, Charlie Kirk, one of the biggest and most influential MAGA podcasters, used his Tuesday show to spotlight Jeffrey Epstein. This happened only a day after he and other MAGA voices had hinted they might take Trump's advice to simply move on.
On the phase 1 release of the Epstein files, do you think it was more of a PR stunt with Pam Bondi because she just got into office? What do you think is actually going on? And do you think that she genuinely has the files or people are destroying them?
Well, I think they got to make this right. I mean,
Right.
we as the American people deserve to have every Epstein file released with no redactions whatsoever, period. They got to make it right. And we, the American people, ran on transparency. We deserve to see the entire client list. Every document the government has regarding the Epstein files, we, the American people, should have on an easy to access website immediately in a very, very quick fashion. I'm pushing for that both privately and publicly, just so you know. Secondly, there probably are a lot of destroyed documents. I think that's probably the issue.
Drew Kvet, the show's executive producer, later told Axios that the viral clip making the rounds didn't show the full story. He added that Charlie isn't finished talking about it and that the ball is now in the administration's court to come up with a solution.
The DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah. Everything.
And
Everything except child sexual assault material.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files. Let the American people...
This moment stood out because it showed a rare bit of pushback from Trump's own base. Many MAGA supporters were furious over the way Epstein's case was handled, especially the evidence still being kept under wraps. Kirk even called on the Trump administration to fix what he called the Epstein mess by releasing more details. The Justice Department and FBI claimed there was no client list and that Epstein's death was settled. But plenty in Trump world rejected that outright. Some even pointed fingers at Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying she should be the one held accountable.
Some even singled out Attorney General Pam Bondi as the one who should be held accountable.
As he comes under growing pressure to release the Epstein files, the president has called for the release of additional material from the investigation amid new revelations. The White House says it does not want a special counsel. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce has the story. Good morning, Mary.
George, good morning to you. Well, the president and this White House are desperate to move past this intrigue, but some of Trump's supporters are not letting this go. They want answers. And now the president is making a sudden turn to try to satisfy his critics and silence this uproar. This morning, trying to quell the unrelenting backlash over his administration's handling of the investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, the president now ordering the Attorney General to seek the release of additional material. Posting, "I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony, subject to court approval." Bondi quick to respond, "President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts." But that could be a lengthy process that could require hearings with the judge to determine the impact on victims. This morning, it's not clear if this will be enough to satisfy Trump's critics, including many of his supporters who have been demanding the release of the full FBI files on Epstein. The president's announcement coming just hours after the White House made clear Trump will not be appointing a special prosecutor to investigate, as some Republicans have called for.
The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case.
President Trump, clearly irritated by the backlash, tried to cool down his supporters. In a Truth Social post that Saturday, he claimed selfish people were attacking the administration over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein, calling him someone nobody really cares about. But many conservative voices pushed back, showing they still cared deeply about Epstein and weren't buying the administration's attempt to brush it off. CNN later reported that Trump even spoke directly with Kirk over the weekend.
Okay, everybody, after a major event this last weekend where we talked about Epstein, I want to just kind of give you a little bit of an update because we've been covering other stories as well. Breaking day, President Donald Trump said, "Any credible information, let them have it." So here's a good place to start. There's an Office of Personnel report at the Department of Justice of a report where they interviewed Alexander Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney back in 2007 that prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein on a very, let's just say, suspicious case. He was not treated harshly. The original search warrant was selectively composed to try to protect Epstein. So the whole point of this Office of Personnel report goes to the underlying transcripts, and we can get access to that right now. Well, not we, but the Attorney General of the United States can get access to that. President Donald Trump has greenlit this. He said, "Any credible information, Pam Bondi, you can release."
This exchange was especially important. Many believe Trump actually wanted Kirk to drop the Epstein files, but Kirk clearly didn't back down. Silencing him wouldn't really solve the problem anyway. It would only draw even more attention to what he had been focused on, and that was the Epstein files.
I know Pam. I think Pam should do this. I think Pam should walk down the hall to the Office of Personnel Report, OPR, and get this report. In it is a ton of information. Secondly, I think the Department of Justice should move to unseal the grand jury testimony in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Number three, I think that Ghislaine Maxwell should be given the green light. Go talk. Let people ask questions. Figure out what the heck is going on. Was Jeffrey Epstein an intelligence asset? Now, the Israeli government has come out and said, no, he was not one of ours, under no means necessary. And so, was he Saudi? Was he MI6? Was he CIA? We do not know. And our audience is really fired up about the story. We've been covering it extensively. Yesterday, we were covering a lot of other stories as well, but today we had Mike Pence on. We had a couple reporters on. This is some breaking news. President Trump today had said, any credible information, let them have it. A good place to start is unsealing the Department of Justice grand jury testimony, the Office of Personnel report. In there, we're going to find out all the information of the intel aspects of this. So we're very much on this. Keep the pressure on. And I really want to get to the bottom of this because transparency is critical. Transparency is key.
The FBI and CIA likely considered that angle too. Before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he had actually become increasingly outspoken in his criticism of Israel and Netanyahu. On October 23, 2023, after Israel admitted to a strike near Gaza's St. Porphyry's Church that killed civilians taking shelter, Kirk publicly demanded more transparency. After the hospital fiasco the week before, he said he wanted to wait for verified facts. But it now appeared confirmed that Israel had hit the building next to the church. Christians were sheltering there, including relatives of Justin Amash, as anti-Israel sentiment grew. Maybe it was just coincidence, but one detail stood out. Netanyahu not only released a statement within minutes of Kirk's assassination, he even went on air to insist that neither Israel nor Mossad had anything to do with it.
Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart, from his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this: Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory...
Feels a little over the top for the Prime Minister of a supposedly uninvolved country to jump in and comment on the situation, let alone flat out deny responsibility. So the real question is, why did he feel the need to do that?
Who specifically came out and said that BB Charlie Kirk, but now that he's for the second time denying that he is, people are going, what's actually going on here?
Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific.
I don't know, guys. That Israeli propaganda just ain't hitting the same. You're not making people feel comfortable with the fact that you keep coming out to have to deny something that certainly wasn't asserted by me on this program. And you're doubling down on your lie. I told you to publish the full letter that Charlie wrote you, not lines of it. Okay? It's a lie by omission. And to stop mentioning the fact that you invited him to Israel just 2 weeks ago without mentioning the fact that he declined to go. Am I lying? Can anybody actually work and assert that I am lying? You can say my name. Candace Owens lied. Charlie said, I'd love to go to Israel. Charlie said, I'd love to have you on my radio show. They have sent the hounds out, but they're unable to actually dispute the words that are coming out of
the situation. Looks even murky when you remember that Mossad has long been rumored, though never proven, to have used Jeffrey Epstein to collect compromising information on top U.S. politicians. If that theory were true, and Charlie Kirk was pressuring the government to release the Epstein files, the trail could easily have pointed back toward Mossad and even Netanyahu's orbit.
I do smell a rat. And I'd like to know why no one in the media is talking about the investigation or the fact that there should have been an investigation into whether or not Jeffrey Epstein was working for a foreign intelligence service.
So that's really interesting. So look, you've studied into this. What is the evidence that he might have been?
He is a textbook example of an access agent. You're, like I said the last time I was on the show, Piers, you're not going to recruit Bill Clinton. You're not going to recruit Bill Gates. You're not going to recruit Alan Dershowitz. But you can recruit someone who gets close to those people. You can give them something that you can hold over their heads if you have to in the end. And then you report back to your handlers everything that they say. And in exchange, you get untold wealth and a house in the Caribbean and the biggest townhouse in Manhattan and a private plane. And that's a pretty good life, especially if you're and you enjoy doing things like that. And nobody's talking about whether or not he was an access agent.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, does the intelligence community believe that there is merit to that suggestion?
Yes, it does. It does. But the problem here is the accusation is that he was an access agent for the Israelis. And that's something that the intelligence community really doesn't like to touch.
Why?
Because we have this special relationship with Israel, not like a Five Eyes relationship like we have with the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, but this special relationship where we share so much, we provide so much, we work with the Israelis on issues all around the region, at least around the world, and on a handful of issues. Why upset the balance over one dead? Isn't it easier just to cover it up?
Brian, what do you think of that?
I believe that Jeffrey Epstein surrounded himself with a lot of powerful people. It is very, very possible that he could have been working for a government agency. Very, very possible as well. I would tend to agree with the fact that this needs to be investigated more. The media needs to talk about it more. And I don't think this is just a situation where Jeffrey Epstein was getting people to come on his island and sadly do horrible things to young girls. I think there's a lot more to this story. I think there's a lot of people hiding a lot of information. So I certainly...
One of the most emotional moments came from Kirk's wife, Erica, holding back tears. She told the crowd that she had already forgiven the person accused of taking her husband's life,